Atlas in the hot seat tonight.
And Atlas.
Goes by the name of Atlas the Bookkeeper. How you feeling, my friend?
All right, folks, let's do it. Let's get to the topic at hand. We're about 38 minutes in. Let's get to the topic at hand, shall we? What's the big news that everyone's talking about today? Ladies and gentlemen, the Game Awards nominees have hit. And just as I had predicted yesterday, the controversy is huge. Everyone right now is talking about it, and pretty much everyone's upset. Okay, so why is everyone upset? Well, because yesterday we had said that this year, for the first time ever, the Game Awards were going to make DLC expansions and remaster/remakes eligible for Game of the Year. And a lot of people were like, wait, what? Why would a DLC be eligible for Game of the Year? That doesn't seem to make sense. And then people started to put two and two together and say, I know what's going on. They're trying to lay the groundwork because they're about to do something that a lot of people are going to be upset with. As you know, or maybe you don't, the Game Awards are not a popular vote show. The Game Awards are voted on 90% weighted by a jury. And if you don't know who the jury is, that's because no one does this year. They hid who they are. But traditionally, the jury is a bunch of Jeff Keighley's buddies in the game industry, notably game journalists. But when I say game journalists, I say that lightly because usually he gets people from all different kinds of media. The LA Times, Pride, which is an online, it's literally like a gay pride promotion website. Why are they voting on Game of the Year? Exactly. You see what I'm saying? What he takes as his cross section of this is the jury, this is who should be voting. It's a very skewed audience. Okay, it's probably not representative of what actual gamers want. It's more representative of what Hollywood wants, what the media wants, and as we know, and this is factual, this is not me being biased either way. Hollywood and the media is skewed way to the liberal side, way to the left. So that's why you get games that usually are nominated. You're like, I never even heard of this game. Like, what are you talking about? Why is this nominated for Game of the Year? And then you'll get a game that everyone liked and it gets snubbed. You remember last year when Hogwarts Legacy, the game that literally sold more than Call of Duty, it broke records, was not eligible for the Game of the Year or any of the awards. What? Why? Because people in Hollywood, people in games media are liberal and they don't like the author of Harry Potter. They think that she's very, conservative, very anti-progressive, and they hate her for it. So because of that, was J.K. Rowling? Yeah, they hate J.K. Rowling. So basically, that game was not nominated, even though it was the best-selling game of the year, and collectively, everyone loved it who played it. It's pretty sad because, as I've told you guys, increasingly more and more over the last several years, I've seen games become political. I don't want games to be political. When I sit down to play a video game, I sit down to escape reality. I'm not here to play a video game to remember everything going on around me with politics. I just want to escape. When I'm playing Dragon Age Veilguard, I want to think about fighting dragons and necromancers and magic and knights and elves. I don't want to think about what's your pronouns. What the hell does that have to do with what I'm doing? I'm trying to play a video game and escape reality, right? But this is becoming increasingly worse, where over and over, these game developers and studios are pushing this agenda into their games, okay? So it's becoming this big dichotomy. And what's happening is games at the Game Awards are getting snubbed more and more, and people are getting upset about it. Now, there is a popular vote that goes into it as a factor, and also there is a gamer's voice where you can vote on what game you want to be Game of the Year. To give you an example, in 2020, the entire Game Awards awarded almost every award to The Last of Us 2, but then the Gamer's Choice all picked Ghost of Tsushima. Said, no, Ghost of Tsushima is a much better game. You guys are off base. You're out of your minds. But some years it's resounding. Last year, all the jury picked Baldur's Gate 3 and the Gamer's Voice picked Baldur's Gate 3. So really, year to year, It differs. This year, 2024, is going to be a big year of contention and split. Because not only do we just have an American election that the pendulum swung from the left to the right, and all the conservatives just won all the spots in government, including the presidency. Okay? But now in games this year, we saw a huge shift towards having these liberal topics and things in games, and a lot of people aren't having it. So this year, we knew the Game Awards were going to be a hot topic. But now, we're going to take a look at these nominees, and you're going to see exactly what I was talking about yesterday. Here it is, Dark Side Phil on YouTube. Whoops, I misclicked. Okay. So we're about to look at the nominees. In the meantime, thank you, Anthony, for a $5 super chat. However, Anthony is bringing up things about detractors being into lolicon. It's not really the topic I'm talking about right now, Anthony. We're talking about the Game Awards. But I appreciate your super chat. Thank you for that, Anthony. I would prefer not to distract my my chat and talk about detractor lolicon fetish right now. Thank you, though. Okay. Cool. So, let's do it, shall we? Here it is. The Game Awards nominees for 2024. View all categories. What the hell? I clicked on nominees and it went to player's voice. I didn't click on player's voice. I clicked on view all category. Wait, did it go to the wrong page? It did, didn't it? Nominee. It went to the wrong, oh, I don't want to vote. I just want to see the nominees. Wow, this was a great website. Nominees. View all category. What is going on? I swear to you, this site was working. Did they mess the site up? I think the site's screwed up. This was working before. Look. Did the site go down? No, it was glitched and not loaded. Maybe a lot of people are using it because it just went live 3 hours ago. So maybe a ton of people are flooding the site. All right, I could see that happening. Because what I want to do, I wanted to view all categories. Okay, here we are. So here's all the categories of the Game Awards. All right? Game of the Year, obviously. Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Art Direction, Score and Music, Audio Design, Performance, which is from an actor or, mocap artist. Innovation and Accessibility, Games for Impact, Best Ongoing, and that's usually like an MMO or online game. Best Community Support, Best Indie, Best Debut Indie, Best Mobile Game, Best VR AR, Best Action Game, Best Action Adventure, which is weird. Action or Action Adventure, difference. Best RPG, Best Fighting Game, that'll be interesting. Best Family Game, Best Sim and Strategy Game, Best Sports Racing, Best Multiplayer, Best Adaptation, Most Anticipated Game of Next Year, Content Creator of the Year, I can't wait to see that. Best Esports Game, Best Esports Athlete, and Best Esports Team. And then Player's Voice, which doesn't start till December 2nd, all right? So obviously, we want to go right ahead, and we want to look at Game of the Year, okay? What games got the nod for Game of the Year? Are you ready? Astrobot from Team Asobi, Balatro from Local Thunk, Black Myth Wukong from Game Science, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree from Software, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Square Enix, and way down here, which is weird, why is it another row? Metaphor Re Fantasio by Studio Zero or Atlas. Now, I'm just gonna say this. The way they set this up, the first thing that happens when you open Game of the Year, what do you see? You see these 5 games. So you know what's gonna happen? Literally everyone's gonna click on the site. They're gonna go here and they're just gonna vote on these 5. No one's gonna scroll down and realize that Metaphor is there. This is bad site design. If you're gonna have something where you're gonna have it all equal, they all should be sitting next to each other. Or maybe it should be like, 3 and 3, not 5 and 1. I know this from my own polls that I've set up over the years. If you have something at the very end and it's not prominent, it never gets as many votes as everything else. So I think they kind of screwed it up there. Now, maybe if you zoom out, right, it'll actually, if you zoom way out to 67%, see, I was on 100. This is normal zoom level. And on normal zoom level, Metaphor gets the shaft. So whoever designed their website, I'm sorry, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Just being honest. That's actually awful. And I would wonder if Metaphor will get cheated out of votes because of the way that they have set up this site. Okay? Now, to comment on these games, all right? Astrobot, did I play it? Yes, I did. Did I beat it? Yes, I did. Did I 100% it? Almost. The things I didn't do were like, you know, get the jackpot on the slot machine on this certain stage. I got every collectible in the game that was like meaningful and everything. So I played the heck out of it. I loved it. Okay? Balatro. I have no clue what the hell this game is at all. I've never heard of it. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Is it an indie game? I'm assuming it is. Now, one person that I know said they played it and actually really like it, and that it's basically an indie game made by one person. Game of the year. An indie game made by one person that most people have never heard of and didn't play. Game of the year. You know what this reminds me of? The Oscars. Why does this remind me of the Oscars? Because every year at the Oscars, right, there's like 10 movies that were the best movies of the year when it comes to like popularity, how many people saw them, how much money they made, and how many people talk about them. And they never get nominated for Best Picture, right? Almost never. It's always a bunch of indie films that you've never heard of. It's like, what is it? What the hell? And then, you know, some movie wins, and then ultimately that movie finally gets watched because it won the Academy Awards, and people will go get it and watch it. But in this case, right, what is Balatro? And again, I'm not crapping on the game. Why is it in there? Even if this is like the best indie game of the year, shouldn't it be in best indie of the year? How is this game of the year contender worthy when no one knows what it is? I'm just being honest. Again, I'm not trying to shit on it, but not once did I hear this game mentioned anywhere this year. Not on social media, not in my chat, not on my streams. No one asked me to play it. What is it? At the very least, I know what all the other games are. What is this? That just baffles me. All right. And you might say, well, it deserves to be there. But then you're going to say, well, wait a minute. If that deserves to be there, what about a few other games? All right. But let's continue. Black Myth Wukong. Listen, more power to you if you fell in love with Black Myth Wukong and it's your game of the year. I played halfway through it. I got so bored. And my audience got so bored. It's just a wandering around repetitive combat game. It's not very special. Once you get past how good the graphics were on PC, and the veil was kind of lifted, once you get to that third chapter and you realize this is the whole game, I got so fucking bored with it. Like I said, I feel like Black Myth Wukong was a good first attempt. If they come back in a 2-3 years and they do Black Myth 2, and that game has way more gameplay elements, better world design, I'll be like dead on okay game of the year. For me, this is not a game of the year contender. It's a good game, don't get me wrong, but it is not a game of the year contender. All the shortcomings we talked about when it was out, and collectively most people agreed, I don't even understand. You know what this screams? The games journalist who voted on game of the year didn't beat it. They played it, they got through like the first 1 or 2 chapters and said, oh, it's good, and then they just stopped playing it and didn't see any of the shortcomings of the games that literally start in chapter 3, and then they said, oh, it's a game of the year contender. If you didn't beat the game, don't fucking nominate it. And I get the feeling most people who nominated it never beat it. Okay. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Well, let's analyze this, shall we? Is Shadow of the Erdtree a good game? Yes. Is Shadow of the Erdtree rife with new content, gameplay mechanics, and design elements? I guess you could argue yes to at least 2 out of those 3. It has an insane amount of new weapons and ways to play it from the base Elden Ring game. It's got a crazy amount of content. It's a very long DLC. I would argue, though, it is very much just Elden Ring again, right? It's not like they reinvented the wheel. They didn't necessarily change the formula of Elden Ring that much. It is Elden Ring a second time, right? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Well, here's the thing. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy VII, you loved it. If you're not a if you're not a fan of too many Fs, if you're not a fan of Final Fantasy VII, you probably would like it. For me, I was enjoying it. My audience hated it. I was having a great time with the game. And then 20 hours in, my audience got completely bored with it, stopped attending streams, and begged me never to play it again, so I stopped. So honestly, I don't feel like I can fairly judge the game because I only played 20 hours out of an 80-hour gameplay experience, right? The 20 hours I played, I very much was enjoying. What I didn't like is that the open world segments were becoming repetitive. Not to say that that's the whole game. It's not. The game actually had more than just the open world segments. But the open world segments really were getting disappointing and repetitive. Now, I think it's a fine game, quite frankly. I wish that I could have kept playing it. My audience didn't want it. Okay? Lastly, for me, this is the most disappointing game on the list, and it's not for why you think. It's not because I'm upset that this game is on the list. It's because I agree with Metaphor being on the list so much that I really wanted to play it, and I couldn't. Metaphor ReFantasio. I played 12 hours of the demo, and I love this game. I think the graphics are outstanding. The gameplay elements are very good. In fact, they're a step up from Persona 5. From all reports, the game is absolutely amazing, right? And I wanted to play it. And again, much like what happened to me with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, people weren't showing up for the streams. I'm not streaming for myself. If I'm going to play the game, I play offline myself, I guess. But I can't stream it if no one's going to show up. And I had streams where, 150 people, no support. And this is my job. I got to do what's going to bring people to the streams. As I'm supposed to be an entertainer. I'm not playing the game to play it for myself. You understand? So this is kind of the same situation as Rebirth, where I was liking it. But for some reason, this was the year of me playing RPGs, but no one caring about RPGs. So it is what it is. So out of this list, okay, to be quite frank with all of you, I disagree with Balatro just because I've never heard of it. Maybe it's best indie game of the year, but I don't think it should be game of the year. It sounds like a wasted spot to me. And I don't agree with Black Myth Wukong because I actually played more than halfway into it and saw how bad it gets halfway through. I think most game journalists never got past chapter 2, just to be honest, However, man, are people upset for multiple reasons, mostly omissions. What games are not on this list that most people collectively agreed this year are great? The first game is Stellar Blade. This game that everyone claimed was the best combat game, and it was riveting and revolutionary. But the funny part was every time I tried to get information about it, all I heard about was how the protagonist was sexy. How when she climbs the ladder, her butt jiggles. And I'm like, it would have been great if there was discourse about how good the game was, but I never saw it. Maybe it does exist. Maybe you got to search for it, right? But I never really got to find out why Stellar Blade was good. I didn't play it. I wasn't interested in it. As I told you, the whole Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, that kind of game, I'm not really interested in it. At one point I tried them back in the day. Don't really like them that much. They get very repetitive, I feel. I much enjoy other games better, which is why I didn't play Stellar Blade. It's the same reason I didn't play Bayonetta 3. I didn't play a lot of these games over the last several years because I'm not interested in them. But a lot of people collectively think that Stellar Blade should have been a Game of the Year contender and are feeling that it is this jury of very liberal games media people are upset because the game had sexualized content in it, and they're not for that. How dare this game have a sexualized woman as the protagonist? Not acceptable. Cannot be Game of the Year. Leave it off the list. Now, the other game that's big missing from this list that I think a lot of people are very upset about is Silent Hill 2 Remake. Okay? Silent Hill 2 Remake is on par with the level of quality as Resident Evil 2 Remake from many years ago. It's not just we took the game and upgraded it to HD visuals and regurgitated it and charged you full price. It's a new game. Yes, it has the same plot as the original Silent Hill 2, but everything is redone from the ground up. The graphics, the controls and gameplay elements, the puzzles, the combat. It's a whole new game. I mean, it's like more than twice the length of the original Silent Hill 2. It's amazingly good. I loved it. I loved every minute I was playing it. I mean, some of those boss fights, the Abstract Daddy boss fight, holy shit, they redid it in such an amazing way to make it feel so crazy modern but spooky at the same time. It's really well done. And I'm just like scratching my head. How in the hell did Balatro get on this list and not Silent Hill 2 Remake? Did no one fucking play it? And again, that's what I feel is like these journalists who they have on their jury didn't play games like Stellar Blade or Silent Hill 2, but instead played Balatro because all their friends told them it was the hot new indie game. So they played it and they put it on the list. That's fucking stupid. And another thing, you might say, well, Silent Hill 2 is a remake. Yeah, well, Shadow of the Erdtree is a DLC. So I could counter you, you know, same bullshit. If this isn't a full-fledged new game, then this shouldn't be on the list either. If that's your reason for keeping Silent Hill 2 Remake off the list. Okay? So, I hate to say it. Once again, this year, we have no Baldur's Gate 3 this year. Right? And because we have no Baldur's Gate 3, we have no consensus. And this is going to be a very heated debate of which of these games should be the winner. Can I be frank? All right? These first three should not be on this list. Astrobot's a great game, and yes, it's a great platformer, but it's not Game of the Year stuff. It's been there, done that. If you've played platformers recently, as I was playing it, I was like, oh, it feels like Super Mario 3D World or Land or whatever, right? Because it does. It shouldn't be a Game of the Year contender. It's a great game. It's the best platformer of the year, but it's definitely not Game of the Year material. This game I never heard of, and this game is actually not that good halfway in. So these three are a joke. So for me, between Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor, how do I judge? And the answer is I actually can't. You want to know why? Because I didn't finish 7, and I didn't finish Metaphor. So by default, my game of the year in this list is Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. And there's nothing I can even do about it. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't pick Metaphor as game of the year when I only played 12 hours in. I can't pick Final Fantasy VII when I only played 20. So my game of the year for the Game Awards is a default winner, and that's kind of stupid. You know, at least if Silent Hill 2 was in there, or at least another game, I would have had like, okay, I could compare these two. But, right? There's nothing I can really do about it. So now that we've looked at Game of the Year, okay, I'm just curious about some of these others.